podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
And on the latest wrap, we discuss Wales senior men's losing, Wales under 20s losing, and Cardiff West beating Cardiff East under 18s. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP podcast. As ever, I am Harley in the hot seat. I'm joined by Hattie and Dan, and we also welcome back new grandfather Nick. How are we doing? That smile has not left your face, I imagine.
Yeah, all good. A few ups and downs last week, but I managed to take on a very important first visit today to the pub. I had a pint and some lunch, so just getting it warmed up for the future.
And speaking of pints, let's go straight into drink of the week. Thanks, Nick. You set this up brilliantly for me. So just remember that during the Six Nations, we are sponsored by Beer 52. And if you fancy a free case of 8 beers, why don't you head on over to www.beer52/WRRAP, that's beer52.com/WRRAP, pay your postage, and you get 8 free beers. Beer 52, the UK's #1 beer club. Every month they'll send you new beers from various cities all over the world, and you get this case of wonderful beers. You get anything from creamy stouts, pale ales, nice refreshing lagers, perfect pilsners, whatever. And I guarantee you won't have heard of most of them before. Every now and again you might find the odd one or two, but it's usually always something of them. Now, if you don't want some of the heavier beers, you can go for the lighter package. And also for responsible drinking, we've got to have some snacks as well. Just make sure you don't drink on an empty stomach. So they also provide you with some lovely yummy snacks. As we've already discussed, the Bombay mixes and all the corn chips from this month's from our boxes have all gone. They were very nice. Thank you very much. And then if you want to learn a little bit more about breweries, you've got the wonderful Ferment magazine. And because I am useless, I've forgotten it this week along with my laptop charger. So if I disappear, good news for everyone. But yeah, the podcast will carry on recording without me. Anyway, so after all that, if you don't want it after you've had it for a couple of months or even 1 month, it's simple. Just to either pause the subscription for a few months until you've got a little bit more money, or you just fancy beers again, or you just cancel outright. So just remember, beer52, beer52.com/WRRAP, and enjoy some free beers. Now for this week, I'm going to start off with Citraca Ciegas, which I'll be honest, I'm guessing is meant to be more Spanish. So this is a New England IPA, 6.5%. Lovely, refreshing, quite fruity notes. Doesn't taste as strong. It's a bit of a danger juice when it doesn't taste like a 6.5% beer. And they're the ones you've got to watch out for. But this has been going down quite well. Going to move on because Nick is very excited to talk about his beer. He was telling us off here. So
I've got a Burro, which is only 3.4%. It's a light cloudy beer, bit yeasty flavour. And so I got a hint of citrus as well, but it's very refreshing, very nice, not as strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the one I had last week, and yeah, it's very much nothing. Hattie, just proving once and for all that beer is not just for men. What have we got?
So I've got, funnily enough, you say not just for men because it's called Son of a Gun. Is what I've got. 5.8%. Doesn't taste like 5.8%. And it's just a little hazy Australian number.
Excellent. That is something I've always wanted in my life, is a hazy Australian.
Yeah.
Dan, rounding us up then, what have you got this evening?
I've got Dai Dong Pale Ale, which I'm assuming is some sort of, I don't want to stereotype you, but some sort of Asian beer. It's very nice. Pale Ale. And I seem to have had a few strong ones, so I'm back on the 5+%ers, which have been needed in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, zesty, pale, easy going. It's from it was right. From Seoul in Korea. So yeah, very tasty, and I could do about 12 of these, no problem.
I really don't want to do stereotypes about the men of Gwent, but Dan is doing the work for me there.
Yay, we.
Anyway. So that was drink of the week. So moving swiftly on, Nick, let's be honest, News Deck was a shambles last week without you here. Can you bring us some semblance of professionalism?
Oh, I'll do my best. Very little actually, to be honest. I'm sure there's lots going on in the background. However, George Roberts has sort of come home. He's done well since he's come from Doncaster's Dragons. But in the gap in fixtures, he's rejoined RGC for 2 games. And I think he might have come on against Newport on Saturday. So he didn't have to travel too far for that one, but he might be back in Colwyn Bay this weekend. And I think we've talked about it before, but last Thursday night was the final of the regional under-18s competition. And surprise, surprise, Ospreys beat Cardiff 1917 at Cardiff Arms Park. And I think basically the 2 top teams qualified for the final. I think Cardiff done very well until that point, not lost any games. But unfortunately for East Cardiff, West Cardiff came out on top, winning that game by 2 points. And Harley, how was that possible when it wasn't played on a heavy pitch?
Again, it's the typical Cardiff thing of we just don't seem to do fouls. You saw it with the Rags. They've topped the Premiership, they topped the SRC, then completely buggered up in the playoffs. Some caveat should be said is that wasn't the under-18 side we had to put out in that final wasn't the same side that we were playing all the way through, because all those players got called up to the Rag side to lose to Carmarthen Quins, because all the under-20s who normally play for the Rags are playing for the under-20s to lose to France under-20s. Makes you wonder why they bothered. Could have kept them down and won 2 games instead. But yes, it's just bloody typical Cardiff. On the plus side, at least we don't have to worry about it next year. Is that all the news? Anything?
That's all the news. Yeah, it's
anything
been
from
quiet. It's quite one.
Wales, no.
Which means it's one of the best weeks for Wales women in years.
Yeah, nothing has happened.
Abbott Leary won on
Sensational.
Saturday.
Abbott Leary won on Saturday, and you can hit. I said, and unfortunately, because there is no Dragons Lair during the international break, you wouldn't have heard it on Gav's brilliant news desk. So Dan bringing us the hot gossip of
Off the press, yeah.
of a Championship East.
Much needed 5 points for us. Well done, the boys. They were good on the weekend. So yeah, happy days. That was the start of my weekend. Actually, it started well. So Abbott Lady won on Saturday, and Blackwood under 11s beat Blenavon under 11s on. I say beat Blenavon under 11s. Obviously, Rugby was the winner. And then I ventured down the stadium, and it went downhill from there.
Yeah, you started on a real high and ended
Start on a high, yeah.
I think the issue there is, Dan, you didn't head to the stadium into the coaching box to do some defence coaching. I think maybe that would have been the thing.
Dan, the defence coach.
I think that brings us on to talking about Sunday's game. So Wales hosted France in a 54 points to 12 defeat in what I think has confused and infuriated me in so many ways, because I could see improvements, particularly like set piece. But also some things were just as bad, if not worse. And I don't know how to feel about it. So I'm going to leave this to everyone else, because I'll chime in when I find points I want to pick up on or raise. But
well, I would agree. I thought they were okay. Let's take the positives to start off with. Penalty count of 9 for the entire game. Positive. I haven't got stats right in front of me now, correct me if I'm wrong, but stats, possession, territory were pretty even. We had a good go at that. I think tackle and carry stats were pretty even. They had more meters than us, obviously, with their breaks along the edge, but they were pretty even. We scored 2 nice tries that we built into. Josh Adams dropped the ball over the line. It was well built into. We can have a little look at that in a little while. I thought that was positive. Set piece lineup was much better. Scrum was. I thought Tom Francis was fantastic at tight dead scrummaging. We didn't budge. In fact, I think we had the only scrum penalty of the game, didn't we?
Yeah.
So all those things were positives. Negatives for me, on the whole, I think are, and this is the on-field stuff. The on-field stuff, I think, selection has been wrong. We're almost being Ruben Amarind for those of you that are of a football disposition, in that, you know, we've got a set way of playing, and the players that are picked will play that way, not necessarily to their strengths. I don't think we've got selection right. And I'm happy to expand on that later on. I thought we kicked, and this is where the personnel thing comes in, I suppose, is that the kicking game is poor, really poor. It's the right idea, but the wrong execution for me. As in, the box kicking is way too long. There's not enough hang time on it. They're not contestable enough. And for some reason, when we kick from 10, we're hell bent on kicking to edges. I don't, and the way we set our attack up, that's causing us some problems. Because if we don't, we haven't got the right chasers in place, and so on and so forth. But again, we can have a little look at some clips on that later on if you fancy it. And our defence is problematic. Really problematic. And you think at the times that they scored, so they scored in the first minute, the last minute of the first half, and within the first minute or two of the second half. Those are real. That's a 21 point killer for us at key, you know, real momentum knocking times. You know, like first minute, you've just had the anthems. You know, irrespective of the smallish crowd, the Welsh national anthem sung a cappella was fantastic, really loud. You know, the boys got a sweat on. It's very emotional in there, and within a minute, it just knocks the stuffing out the entire place. Absolute momentum killer. So those would be my three main concerns: selection, the quality of the kick-in, not necessarily the policy, and our defence. We cannot be so easy to score against in future games. And at the minute, it's because our defence is compressed, and we've not got a jackal threat on the field at the moment. So therefore, the way that France effectively tackle the tackler and create quick ruck speed is a easy way to play against Wales. And then they attack the 13 channel, and it's game over. We're giving up edges real easy, and they worked us out. You know, France are always going to beat us, I think. But, you know, if you take out those scores that I've just mentioned, that sort of 21 points where we should be a little bit better and a little bit more accurate. Josh Adam goes over his 3 tries to 5, is it? Or 3 tries to 6. It's much more palatable. But there were some improvements. I thought Jared Evans was good when he came on, took the ball to the line, got us ticking over a little bit more. But, you know, the game's done by then, isn't it? In Dan Edwards' defence, he hasn't had to marshal or run the game. So those were my initial takeaways from the on-field stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
think.
Go
Oh,
on.
sorry, Nick. Oh, I was just going to say, like, when we talk about, especially, I think our first half performance was quite poor. By half time, we'd missed 20 tackles, which missed tackles doesn't always, sometimes can be quite a misleading statistic. However, I do have eyes and I did watch the game, and they really did miss those tackles. It was not a, you know, 2 people going in for a tackle and one, no, they straight up just missed those. And I think France had something absolutely obscene, like 17 offloads in the first half, because they were just keeping that ball alive, and they were just flinging it about. And we just could not control it at all. And France were just running us ragged rather. I'm happy that we only conceded 4 penalties. I also think that overall, I think the penalty count for that game was a lot lower than if it had been refereed by somebody else. And by that, I mean there were certain instances, like for example, we did give away a penalty in the first half. Dupont goes for a quick tap that was so quick it was nowhere near the referee, so that should have been brought back. There was like a knock on by France, which was not realised within like the first 10 minutes. They were in touch at one point and it didn't get called. Little bits like that, which is just frustrating. But at the end of the day, we lost the game. We can't blame it on the referee. But I think potentially because things like that were not getting pulled for anybody, maybe our penalty count is a bit misleading at it only being 9. I don't know.
I think that, but for slightly different reason. I feel like because France basically would find an edge and break through there was never any sustained pressure on Wales to give away a penalty.
Mm.
And like that, Dan was right. We didn't really have a jackal foot slowing the ball down. The one time we did slow the ball down, we had that kick, which everyone's seen. I'm not going to comment about that. Maybe Nick might want to talk about that, but and it's just really frustrating that whenever you watch Wales go through a really good set, there would be one missed tackle, that was it, and we were broken, or
Yeah.
it would be right. We've given away a try. Let's set and go, and then Baptiste Saron breaks in midfield under what feels like no pressure at all in the second half. It was really frustrating to watch. It looked like Dan, in there were points in that first half where it looked like Dan Edwards was just not there. Like he just didn't, whether he was being ignored or wasn't called from the ball or whatever. Over the whole game, he had 3 carries, 11 passes, and 8 kicks, which is really low for a 10.
I
mean,
think
Jared Evans'
Jared Evans
number,
had more passes.
he had more passes in half the minutes, more carries, but he is more of that 10. And we basically gave up on the kicking game at that point as well, probably because we were forced to because of how far behind we are. Which, when we go on to team selection, you've got to take that into account that, in the last dying throws of the game and we're just running everything. Same as like Eddie James ended up with 13 carries, which I swear 10 of them came in those last few passages of play when he was on the wing.
Can I give you a positive?
Go for it.
We had the most game line carries since the France were since 2025 Six Nations. Any game since then, we made 97 game line carries. The highest before that was 81 against Argentina. So whilst we can have issues around selection, I think some of we picked a few better ball carriers than we have done in the past. And while obviously France had more game line carries than that, it's not as bad as some games we've had where it's so that's a positive. We doubled our game line carries compared to 45 against England.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the carrying stats of it, so I mean, Zamet's top of everyone with 18. Then you got Dowie Lake, Aaron Wainwright's on 14, which is tied with Jalabert and Ramos. Eddie James, Ollie Cracknell on 13. Alex Mann had 11. Dav Jenkins had 10. We're hitting higher carry numbers than we have been. I think the problem is when we were getting go forward ball, and it was one of the things that got Diffie annoyed us, and then we kick. And as Dan said, the decision and the strategy to kick isn't necessarily a bad decision, but the execution was so poor that it put us on the back foot, and it allowed France to attack us on transition. And then they were, a couple of those tries from France, I think you just have to allow when you're playing France. You've just got to accept that they will score about 21 points just from bullshit. So your defense, which then puts pressure on your defense during regular play, where we couldn't go, and then our attack. Our game on, we were the 4th worst in conversion rate, but we had the fewest entries out of any of the Six Nations sides this week. So we only had 6 entries. Everyone else had at least 9.
Yeah, but
we're
me,
not getting into a danger zone, and then we're not particularly efficient when we get there either. And I think that's.
But the kick element is problematic for us. And it's the way we set it up. So should we nerd out a little bit on a bit of footage or what?
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Let's make our despair visual as well as.
Yeah.
So for audio visual,
where's the share button?
Should be along the bottom. Should be nice and green.
Yeah. Sorry, I got it. It's my
Right,
colour
so
blindness.
just for audio benefit of audio listeners, for this bit, you may want to go pop onto the YouTube and so you can see visually with Dan's clips. We'll try and see if we can get some stills or video to go up on socials or something, but that'll depend on time.
Yeah. So.
And how nice the Six Nations decide to be about sharing footage.
Yeah. Well, this is we'll tag the Beeb in here. So just for some clarity as well, right? This is why teams kick. All right. So can you see that on the screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Have we got that? So this is why you kick, right? So this is the data set from URC Top 14 Premiership. So The 1% is your try line, right? So this is why teams kick the ball a lot, because there's only from the opposition 10-meter line to your try line, well, even from the opposition 22, there's only a 10%, 11 or 10% chance of you scoring, right? Tries come from within the red zone. So that's why teams kick in order to efficiently get into that red zone because of this, okay? So phase count as a hidden risk variable. One of the most overlooked insights is the relationship between phase count and field position. So the more phases you have in your half, the higher risk of a turnover, the higher risk of a penalty, and the lower probability of you scoring. It's no good going 10, 12, 14 phases in your half. You need to prioritise exits. You need to play in the opposition half. That's why all the kicking goes on. Okay, and it's about making those kicks contestable so you can win the ball back and get in there. So for people who are saying that, I see a lot of it like Wales are kicking too much. It's not actually the case. Everybody's kicking. I think actually France kicked more than we did on the weekend when you look at the data, right? Exactly. But they were more effective with it. Go and have a look at DuPont's box kicks compared to what we're about to see now. Okay, so this is a scrum. This coming up, guys. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Watch the work of Cracknell first of all from the base of the scrum. I think this is great. Rides DuPont, makes a gain line, falls to his front, and we're away. And this is just purely now. We're going to set up a box kick. We want as minimal phases as possible. So this is why they've done it. Even though in theory we've got gain line, we want as fewer phases as possible. So the first problem for me with this is that if you look at the way our chase is set up, we've got Cracknell, Dewi Lake,
I think.
and Ellis Me, right?
Yeah.
Now, where you want the kick to land from the 15-meter line there, you want the kick ideally to land on the 5-meter line, so you've got the touch line as an extra defender, and you want sort of 6-second hang time on the kick. The hang time means that we can get a chase in. If we're not competing, we're smashing the ball carrier as he comes to the floor, okay? But watch Thomas's kick now. Look how long it is. We don't give anybody a chance. Me's after it, in fairness to him, but look how far ahead he is. Ramos, international rugby player. What does that create now because he's out of the line? Creates a 2v1.
Like
2v1 with me. And BLBRE here must be licking his lips because unfortunately the next chase is Dewi Lake. We haven't got our back rowers chasing.
No.
We've got our front rowers. Now Dewi's just scrummage mind. And now he's expected to chase a kick that's not completable.
And Tattle, one of the best wingers in the world.
On the outside. Now they're on. They got to that edge really quickly, okay? And they score from this. Now look how compressed our defence is. There's Eddie James right at the top of your screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, was that 14 or 15? All inside sort of the first half of the field.
Mm-hmm.
They play across the front because Hawkins shoots out, leaves a dog leg. Eddie's in no man's land. Little wrap around with Jali Bay in the hole. That's how simple it was on the weekend. Because as soon as they run it back to us, they went from edge to edge to try and exploit that 13 channel as quickly as possible because our defence is so narrow. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that for me sort of summed up our day. The kick's nowhere near contestable. We set up in the wrong way to chase it, and then that's the end result.
Can I come in there? That's
Of course you can.
It's a really, really good example of where that's organisation, though, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
Nobody's really missed a tackle there.
Nope.
Okay, Dewi did, but he's trying to tackle one of the best wingers in the world, and he shouldn't be putting himself in that position. But but also, why were we so narrow there, Dan? Why have we all?
I don't know.
Why have we all? Because that's organisational. It's simple play from France against a really good attacking team.
Yeah,
but you would expect but just retrospect, you'd expect Abbotelleri to be able to exploit that sort of gap.
Oh, you would, and if my defence was that narrow, I'd be spitting feathers on the Tuesday night meeting.
Yeah,
but you should be defending wider, and we'll go on. And this is the try before. So remember now, this is what England did to us as well. Remember last week, soften us up with a driving maul. Okay, so you soften us up with a maul. what I want you to have a look at as well now is because we haven't got a jackal threat, right? They know that. We haven't got a
Yeah.
real jackal threat. You watch their work in the contact area because they don't go anywhere for a phase or two. But you watch their work in the contact area now. We've done well to sack them all.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're playing. We're hunting a little bit. Look how quickly they remove the threat from that ruck. Okay, there's a better example coming up now. Okay, they just play out. They're going nowhere here, are they? Absolutely
No.
nowhere.
No.
Okay, watch them take Wainwright out now, because Tandy's defense is all about two in the tackle. Okay, so we want two in the tackle to slow the ball up. Maybe we can get a jackler on it if we slow enough. But watch how they speed the ball up by taking the tackler out. Two men, look straight on Wainwright. He's gone. Look how quick the ball is. Here's another one. Watch Alex Mann. Watch Qua or Cross, is it? Cross on Mann.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight out of the game, on the floor. So now we've
Yeah.
got two men on the floor, out of the game here, completely gone. They're no good to anybody now. And they're playing again. They want to get to that edge. So they set the principle, take Dav Jenkins out. And it's the same play again. Across the edge, out the back to 10, who's in the 13 slot because they narrow us up. And we're lucky to get away with it here. We scramble really well, okay?
Yeah.
But if we just take it back here to this point, when they come back, again, watch how narrow our defence is.
Yeah.
But there, look at that.
And they're
Question there,
actually, sorry, Carly, like you can watch them compressing.
Yeah, because what's happening, see, look, is as they are carrying narrow. They want to set the principle on that edge. They're carrying narrow. They don't panic. They haven't kicked the ball away because they're in the right area to start scoring tries now. Look, our third of the field. And they're tackling the tackler. So they are putting men out of the game. So the boys are just getting up off the floor. The ruck speed's so quick. They're just getting up off the floor and realigning. Look at Cracknell. He's not even looking at the ball. And then all of a sudden they change the principle. They play to that forward on the edge. Poor old Eddie James doesn't stand a chance. Little block in line, Jalibé. And then it's, you're in the lap of the gods here. And we scramble well. They ultimately score from this, I think, now, if I'm...
Yeah, it was
If I'm right.
didn't he give a penalty for not releasing?
There you go.
Yeah, I think was it this the line out, and then we had really, really good maul defense, but we still
But
gave away tries.
that's how lucky we were not to
Can we just
concede.
Can we just
Go
go
on.
to the go back to the setup for that as well? Because there's a couple of things I want to point out with this. So I know at least
Which bit now?
go back to the setup just
The
before
wide-
the final phase before they get held up.
Okay.
So basically when they're on wide,
Here you go.
that's it here. So if you look, I haven't got the thing, but if you look, Lake looking in, I think that's either Beard or Dav Jenkins looking in. The next two defenders are looking in. Eddie James is looking in. Now, I mean, I know so we're being told now that you almost want to be turned slightly out so that you're facing your man and you can scan the defense.
Yeah.
We're also being told that, for us, defense starts to push out.
Yeah.
So who in there should be, if you were coaching this now,
Yeah.
how would you be telling them to work out their space? Who would you be pushing? Say,
Well,
you've got to.
13 would be my defensive general in here, or one of the centres. So you'd be splitting the centres, so they work both sides of the field, and they would be marshalling. They would be marshalling my defence. But if we just take it back to this and let it play on, do we manage to slow the ball down enough to get set here? Because this is the phase that sets the principle. I'd argue it's a couple of second rucks. So if we stop there, it's so quick. But if you were these boys here now, right? These ones. Now, for me, the forward pack here are not really much of a threat at the moment, are they? Because they're all working backwards. So, and this guy, look, has got his arm up. So if I was coaching him now, which obviously I'm not an international coach, but it's just my opinion on it.
Are you available though, Dan?
Is that I'd be thinking now, right? Which one's the threat? We need to be talking to one another. Which one's first receiver? And then I would always set the C defender opposite first receiver. A and B manage the inside threats. Yeah. C is opposite first receiver. Now, A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, maybe. So we're two defenders wide. We should be two defenders
should
wider.
Be wider, shouldn't we?
Something along those lines. Yeah. So then, if we just play this on, and it, in this case, look, they go to Ramos. but we are still so narrow that it just
Should Eddie James push up? Not, I'm going to go him now. Should 13 push up a bit more there? Be a bit more aggressive.
well, yeah, I don't know how to get rid of these drawings now on you. So you'll have to bear with us for those that can see that. Yeah. Now, let me just get rid of these and then.
I think he's sorry to butt in, but I feel like he's a bit damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
Yeah, and I wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's not about individuals. It's about that position. What should 13 do in whatever his name is? Player A, player B, player C.
Yeah, but if you start wider here, right? We know the forward pod weren't a threat. 8 had his hand up, right? So if you start with 8, thinking that he's the first receiver, it might pull you across anyway, even if Ramos is having the ball. But
Yeah.
for me, we know already, don't they? That, and I would have thought they've done their homework. That we know they're going to want to play into this sort of space, right?
Yeah.
Now, for me, if we start wider, then Eddie James's line is
It's in.
up and in.
And then
So all the defenders are coming up, and then we can jam in. So you then stop in that play out the back. Let's just get rid of these a second, right? And because ideally you'd want look, Eddie James is already behind, but if if he starts wider,
you can jam in.
then he jams in and he takes Jalibert man and ball. That would be the idea of having a high line.
Yeah.
But we're real passive, we're really narrow, and it ends up being like this. And for me as well, Louis Rees-Zammit there at 15 in this slot, he should be last man. There's no, he's way too far across the pitch. He should be further across following play for me.
Yeah.
But we scramble you and we do okay. But that for me was the sort of tale of our day.
The other thing, Dan, I don't know if you're going to show any of this, is the kicks they scored. The tries they scored or kicks. I don't know if you got any of those clips or just want to talk about it.
Was that the first one?
Well,
I think
anything.
it was
I
the
think they scored 2
first one
tries off kicks. We were nowhere near. There wasn't anybody within that was spitting distance, sort of 15 meters. And basically, I think same thing happened in the England game as well, where they drove the line out a little bit and then kicked it across the field, and it was like as if we only had 13 players on the field. I just couldn't work out
because we're so compressed. Now, this leads to their first try, I think. So we haven't long kicked off. So again, if you watch it, the kick's much better here. It's contestable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
As well.
But he taps the ball back.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we've got the right chasers in position here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we force them back inside, but we're missing tackles, right? Ultimately, they set a wide principle. Where's the first place they go now? Again, look at who's this on the head by you? Is that Hawkins?
Yep.
Yeah, look how narrow we are. But it's the ruck speed again, isn't it? So just play it here.
Just a quick question there. So you see in that line, Eddie James' bite is coming into the defender when there's a player outside, and Wainwright's on his inside.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he should be trusting Wainwright to make that tackle so he can keep an eye on the
Yeah.
edge man?
Yeah,
And then, and again for keeping that shape.
it's difficult, isn't it? I think they're so panicky. But notice by you, look where Ramos is.
Yeah. He's running around the back, and
he's already on his bike. Okay, as soon as that principle set for them, he's on his bike, and they go wide, and they're looking for him.
Yeah.
There's the bite in. Okay, Adams makes a cracking tackle, but why does he make that tackle? Because he's high.
He's coming in.
He's connected. He's connected, and he's high. He's not sat back. It's a great read. No. Yeah. Absolutely great read.
Can we just say, because this is something that Adams has been doing for Wales for years, and it is, this is part of the reason why he keeps getting selected, is because he keeps making these reads, and he's doing it all game. The problem is then, because we're not slowing the ball down, he's out.
Yeah. But what does Dupont do really well here? What's the first thing that he's obviously, and I watched him closely on the weekend, he was class. What's the first thing he does here? Was he recognised straight away? Who's at the bottom of that ruck?
Adams.
Adams. So who's not on his wing?
Yeah.
Adams. He obviously has a quick look up. And what have we got there?
Pillars are both props.
Props. Pillars are both props. And there you go. Not being funny, right? If I was Dewi Lake and carried it, you'd be shitting yourself, wouldn't you? Best player on the planet. And then he's got the ability to do this, in and out. Beard misses a tackle, 2v1, simple. But and sometimes you got to go. Our D was narrow for him to get to that phase. However, the ability to realise that Adams is on the floor, have a quick scan and go, there's 2 front rowers there, I'll see what I can do, and then end up creating that is just
Can I
quality.
just ask a question? And I don't know if you want to talk more about this, but my question is, are we 11th best team in the world?
Yeah.
And we're playing, or certainly after Sunday, the second best team. And I would argue they were the second best team before Sunday. What should
Yeah.
we expect when the 11th team are playing the second team? Because they are so much better than us.
Well, what would we expect when we were, top 5 team in the world? If we were playing these, we'd be. But I do still think we could be better.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
I do still think we could be better.
But the people who are saying, we should be pushing France hard and within 10 points, well, that's not based on any data. That's
No,
not
well,
based.
Ireland couldn't do it, could they?
No.
Ireland couldn't do it. So, that should tell you everything that you need to know about that, because
we are where we are.
We are where we are. Yeah, we are where we are. So, and this was a story of our day, really, especially in the first half. If you look at our attack here, we sort of get to an edge here, but look where we start and look where we finish. So we're on the 10-meter line. Look at the difference compared to France now, right? Yeah, they're hunting people out the back, aren't they? Yeah. We're not doing that. We're sat off. Look at the way they're making it difficult for us, right? The ball ends up with carry, sets our phase for us. So we've got a sort of a bit of an edge. They're high off the line, right? They're happy with the lead man, yeah, which is man. They're happy with the lead man. Look at Olivon's work rate to get out the back and press the 10.
Yeah.
So it makes the pass a little bit harder. Then we make a man and ball tackle on like, in fairness to him, does well. But now, because they're pressing high, we're losing ground. We've got to work men back from where the principal was on the 10-meter line all the way back around. Okay, we've only lost a couple of meters, but you're still working backwards. They're on the front foot. So off we go again. We set this principle here. Same thing. They're into this. They're into this collision zone, aren't they? They're off the gain line. They're into the collision zone because it's line speed. It's not real heavy line speed. They're just in it. Mm-hmm. They make the tackle. And now we got no shape whatsoever. We've lost it. We're playing behind the gain line. WRRAP makes a tackle. And I think this is what you're alluding to again, Nick, in terms of the way that we are kicking. We've lost nearly 10 metres. Yeah. They're off the line again. Now we've lost 10 metres. They're doubling up on us. And it's line speed kills. I'm telling you now, connected line speed kills. So we've gone 10 metres backwards. The only option now, in 8 phases, is to kick. Where do we kick to? And I think we're lucky to get away with this. We kick to the far edge, right? We make the tackle there, but all our forwards are on this side of the field. Look at us. 2, 8, 7, 6. If they'd have come back this way towards BLBRE, I think they're in. But that sort of summed up our attack in the first half, I felt. Because France's defence more connected, more aggressive off the line, and hunting the backdoor threats. They're happy to get off. Look how much wider they were. It allows them to map that threat out the back, and we lost 10 metres in that time. I don't know. Have you got? What do you think of that?
I go back to that point about organisation and defence. We can talk about winning collisions defensive ways, but just getting people in the right place. When you were looking at those French defenders, they were connected. They were looking the right way. They were what you alluded to before, Dan. They were coming in and forcing pressure on us as an attack.
Yeah,
we were doing none of that. But I don't understand why we can't. Or I would hope we're trying to do that in training. Is it just the pressure of the day of a match? We forget it, or Are we just not having those conversations in the week?
Well, I think it's a depth thing. Notice how flat the attack was in that situation. I know, and especially the 10, and he's sort of like Dan was sort of running parallel to the. And I know this is late in the game now, right? France are 50 up, but have a little look at this as a different example. Okay, so Reece Amit's done what he did all game, and he's run it back pretty much most of the time. Look at Dan Evans out the back. The variation's good, but he's taking it to the line, isn't he? He's taking it more to the line, and the man at the back is deeper. Okay, we get to an edge. Eddie James did well here. He comes into it, big man, gets over the gain line. Look at the speed of ball. Okay, variation again, straight out the back. Now, look at the difference here, Nick, yeah? Their defence isn't set, is it? They
No.
can't get off the line because
And they're a bit tighter as well, aren't they?
they're a bit tighter now. Okay, so it allows us to play. Okay, we drop it in short, look to narrow him again. And we play back to try and set another principle. Good ball, but they're not getting off the line. I know the game's won, I understand that, but they're not hunting like they were. Same again, let's have a look now. Look how slow they are off the line. We're running at weak shoulders because we're taking our ball to the line, we're tipping on. And it's gain line all the time for us. Speed of ball is quick. Hawkins recognises there's no 9. We're playing again. It's quick. We're getting bodies out of there. They're moving them out of the ruck real quickly. Evans out the back door. And it's nice hands, Eddie James here. And I think it's Josh Adams. This is the one where, should have been a try, shouldn't it? A little bit more patience. But that's the variety that I think you're on about, Nick, where we can do it. We're okay, but it's a depth thing to start with, and it's also much easier. And I think we've proved it kind of on both points here. It's much easier to attack a passive defensive line. Now, France were passive in that last example where we should have scored, but that was for the 50 points up. We were passive from minute 1, narrow and passive, and they did to us what we were able to do to them there for 5 or 6 or 10 phases maybe.
One of the things that I found with this team, and especially at the weekend, I think it became quite obvious. We talked, Nick said, should Eddie James trust Aaron Wainwright to make the tackle? When it came to France having infringements that weren't getting picked up by the referees, when it comes to the defence not being set wide enough, all these little bits and pieces, I think it all adds up to there's really, really poor communication throughout the squad. There's poor communication throughout the WRU, but like within this squad in general on the pitch, it's really poor. And I think when you look at all of the issues we've got, they all have an element of communication within them. We've managed to kind of not fix the line out. I'm not going to take last weekend as a thing. It could still go to shit next weekend. But at least that element of communication is a bit better. But there's so many different elements in that. A lot of it just has that running thread of they don't seem to communicate, they don't trust each other, they don't seem to know each other. It's all just a bit.
Yeah, and
sorry.
No, go on, Nick.
No, I suppose my question is, when we perhaps a bit later on the pod, is given that we got so much wrong with our game, is it just we take it in bite-sized chunks, that we've improved our discipline, our first phase was better? For us, I think we all agree. Well, maybe we don't. Are we going to try and further improve our attack or improve our defence? Which takes priority? Because I don't think we're a team that can do both on this occasion, and try and keep, as Hattie said, a decent line out and scrum.
It's an interesting point, isn't it? Because, and this is where, like I mentioned at the start, the 3 things. One of the things is selection, right? So, based on what I've seen in the last couple of games and in the autumn internationals on Wales, there's no doubt about it. We want to kick ourselves in. Okay, so we want to kick ourselves in. The theory being contestable kicks to get men under the ball, so we win the tap backs and so on and so forth, and then play the way you saw that we played at the end there, right? But that's much easier to do because if you think about it as well, if we kick from the halfway to the 10-metre line and we get the ball back, we've got 15 players on side. they've got a couple. So if we get speed of ball from that ruck, we're playing the way we want to play. It's then really hard to get your defensive set, your defense set, and into the shape that you want it to, as you saw in the last couple of clips then from Wales. So I think the question for us is, and I'll open the floor to you, I suppose, right? And he's our best scrum half. But if we want to play that kicking game to get us in, is he our best box kicking scrum half? Tomos now. So are we picking the best personnel to execute that game plan? Because I think Tomos, British Lion, Wales' best scrum half. However, his box kicking on the weekend was poor, not contestable enough. And then if you saw the difference that Jared made, taking the ball to the line, running in that shape against offside or unset defence, I would argue that Jared's probably in a better place to do it than Costello and Dan Edwards is. So maybe we need to look at personnel. We need to pick the best people for the game
The
plan.
game plan. Yeah, and it's something that when you talk about that, for me, if you compare like Kira Bevan on the women's side, out and out Wales women's best scrum half. For a really, really long time, she wasn't picked to start. She would come off the bench because she would make more of an impression off the bench, and also she didn't necessarily fit the game plan as well as Fionn Lewis. And it was a really controversial decision within kind of women's rugby community about Kira Bevan not starting, but it's the best thing for the team. I think that's the same conversation we now need to have about the men's team as well. Is he the best person for that job? Similar question. We have a viewer question from a man named Hugh Griffin. You may have heard of him. You may not have heard of him. I don't know. And he says, Wales are apparently going to appoint a defence coach in the summer. Does this suggest that the WRU assumed Tandy would not need a defence coach assisting him? If so, does that call into question the whole decision-making process of appointing him?
Can I answer that? Yeah. Absolute rubbish. Which other international coach team has no defence coach? You appoint your head coach, and if he was the best person in the job, he gets appointed. What he has been is having his hands tied around his back. I was hoping that defence would improve. It's got worse. But if you wanted to appoint him as defence coach, he should be appointed defence coach. He was appointed as the main coach. But what you then do is put in place a defence coach, and that man is sitting amongst us tonight.
I would agree with Nick. I gotta be honest, I feel sorry for Tandy, and I feel sorry for him because he's effectively got two full-time jobs now, and I think we're seeing the fallout of that. I don't think you can put the detail that's required for international rugby and the time into it that's required for international rugby, as well as I said last week, set in the team standards, set in the team principles, the culture, man management. He's also involved in how we're going to attack, how we're going to kick. All of these sorts of things. So it's unfair on him really. So they need to go out. It's for me, it's the union's rugby austerity 101. We'll appoint Tandy. Maybe because he is a defence specialist, we'll just let him crack on with that as well. If you're Steve Tandy, you're probably not going to say no, are you? Oh yeah, okay, I'll have a little go at it.
Come on.
Yeah, in his first head coach's role, or international head coach's role, and this is you reap what you sow. So they 100% need to bring in a coach to support him as quickly as possible. Otherwise, irrespective of how good our attack gets, we're going to end up, shipping 50 every week.
You can't win international games wherever you are, conceding 7 and 8 tries.
No,
per
you
game.
can't.
I will say though that I think the WRU, and I said a similar thing in our WhatsApp the other day. I feel like with Tandy being chosen, with him not having been an international head coach before, they have kind of picked up on a bit of naivety. Like if you'd gone for an experienced head coach, the likes of, for example, Warren Gatland wouldn't have stood to not have a defence coach. Warren Gatland would not have stood to have a bunch of part-time staff. No experienced international head coach would have stood for that in a team like Wales. So I think they have kind of exploited a little bit of naivety there. And I think whilst the WRU may not have the budgets and they're saying, no, 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 we can't do that, whatever behind the scenes, really that should be on Tally to kick up a bit of a stink about it, in my opinion. Especially when we know that our head coaches in the past have thrown some tantrums.
Just are we going to able to move on from this game? Do you want to dissect any more?
I
No,
feel
no, no.
like we've
Yeah, it is.
really we've lost Harley. Harley's laptop had enough. I feel like we've all had enough of
He's
this
had
game.
enough. He's had enough. Okay. Do you want to move on to selection, or do you want to do the under 20s next?
Should we go under 20s, have a bit of
Go for it.
Okay.
a bit of zhuzh?
Do you mind if I start on this one?
No, yep.
Go for it, Nick.
And before I start review the 20s, they're a team I've followed quite closely over the last 3-4 years. I was had an interest, obviously. But I just want to say how incredibly disappointed and upset I am with the Welsh Rugby Union. They're supposed to be custodians of our game. And frankly, their website is an embarrassment. And it tells us a lot about how the game is run here. It's not the first time I'd cause to complain about such matters. And I have tried in the past to contact them to try and offer some support to rectify the issues. It's only today they've finally updated the information in the under 20 squad. The squad came into camp the same time as the senior squad in January. How sad it is for those players, their families, their friends, the schools, the community clubs they've been involved in, and this marvellous achievement of representing their country in the under 26 nations. So after 2 matches in mid-February, they finally found it upon themselves time to update the information. Up until Saturday actually, there were only 12 players down, and they were the 12 who were played in the Junior World Cup in Italy in June, who were still involved in the under 20s because they still qualify age-wise.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely disgraceful. We're supposed to have a director of rugby and elite performance, haven't we? What is he responsible for? Why isn't he responsible for such matters? And then we had the guy from the board, John Manders, who came on the BBC, and we can argue, well, was he the right person? Where were the real high flyers to make a comment? But what do the community board? He's also a member of the executive board. Not care about the community clubs? But we should be celebrating these lads and the clubs they've come from, the schools rugby they've played. And it's only finally today they've actually managed to do that and put that information on. And it just shows how much they know about rugby. It could be a mistake, but even so, they got Lloyd Lucas and Stefan Jones, 2 outside halves, and they appear in the section on the forwards. It's an absolute embarrassment. It's not even a sick joke. It just shows the organisation is rubbish, crap, and it continues to shoot itself in the foot.
And this has been an ongoing issue as well. Like, apart from the senior men's squad that gets updated and their stats get updated, none of the other squads on that website get updated. You will have women's players who've got 25 caps and it'll say 0 caps. The under 20 squad doesn't get updated until halfway through the under 26 nations. You've got players on there who have got ridiculous amount of caps in a different category to men's seniors.
Yeah.
And they don't have photos, they don't have any information.
No.
It's just crap. And the thing is that if you look at the RFU website, if you look at the French Rugby Union's website, look at any of these other websites, they are at least updated. Yeah. And ours is not. And I understand to an extent, like, yes, they're putting it up in 2 languages. That's wonderful. But your information on there is also just not correct in either.
No.
And I'll give you a real living example of how poor I think our content, because I think that's on the whole what Nick is alluding to, that whilst the website's the sort of jewel in the crown, I suppose, but the content that we deliver as a whole is shockingly poor. Right now, if you want to engage the next generation of rugby people, kids, then they consume all their stuff online. Right, my boy is Mr. Rugby, right? He absolutely lives it, breathes it. Got a rugby shirt on night and day, right? He's not going to be able to know who's playing for Wales 20s, right? He scored a try on the weekend I got in the car. I said, "What was that dive all about?" He went, "Oh, that was a Henry Pollock." I said, "Oh, was it? Where did you see that?" "Oh, on TikTok."
Mm.
So because we are not pushing, why? And I'm there thinking like, well, why is he not doing a Tom Bowen, or why is he not doing a Reece Zammit? Or it's because we're not churning enough good content out. We clearly haven't got a proper comms team
No.
because we can't update the website properly. This, I'm telling you now, this is rugby austerity at its finest, and it's slowly killing us. We're trying to penny pinch left, right, and centre. We probably haven't got a comms team, or
I
a,
know.
or media team, or whatever it is. If they are, because how can my son, who is a boy of Gwent, a proud Welsh rugby supporter, dive in to score a try in his little mini rugby game and doing a Henry Pollock, not Tom Bowen, a Reece Zammit, Eddie James, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
because we're not pushing our personalities and our stars, and this is another reason why we're skint, or we're on the bones of our arse in terms of cash, because we're not accessing the right channels properly.
And I think when you look at, for example, I know France, I think they've got like separate accounts for almost every team. England have got the England Rugby, they've got the Red Roses have got their own separate account. If you look at the Wallaroos and like they have separate accounts for these things. The Brithon and Gwalia, the players are running their own accounts.
Yeah, it's
Like
ridiculous, the
it,
whole
it,
thing.
and I know one of the people who kind of works in the media team. She's stretched so thin. There's no way that when you look at the Red Roses Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, etc., there'll be multiple people whose job is that account because it's the video, it's the photo, it's the actual posting, it's tracking trends, all those different things. It's multiple people working on each account. I would not be surprised if it's like two people working on the WRU social media, which for the volume that the WRU should be is not. It's just
No.
not enough. I don't think they're taking media, specifically social media, like seriously. And the things that you see, like as well, is that they're obviously paying for ad campaigns, which everybody does, whatever, move on. But they're obviously not monitoring them because sometimes you'll get an ad campaign that comes up that's paid for that's out of date.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
they're
the
just
whole
not
thing's
able
broken.
to
Yeah.
keep on top of things.
Yeah, I agree. The whole thing's broken, and which is unfortunate because for the second week in a row, I thought the 20s were outstanding again, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and lucky not to pick up the win. If I'm honest, I don't know
Yeah.
what you guys thought about the game itself.
Yeah. The actual game, I thought, followed up on a good performance in Northampton. So I think there is some hope there. I was lucky enough to do an interview with Richie Pugh last year, and he said the emphasis, about developing players was particularly around physicality.
Mm.
And he was talked very much about how we could compete. It is available, I think, still on the WRRAP family podcast. I did as a member of the Ospreys at the time. But he said to compete with the likes of England and France in particular, we need to be more physical. And you can see elements of that developing. So, shout out to the coaches and I guess the strength and conditioning teams behind at club and country level. And I thought the game was an exciting one. And going on, sort of, it makes reference, my point, I think next probably makes reference to what we said. You can see it's in the French DNA to offload and play, isn't it, jouer? That was very evident on Saturday as well. But the difference was, Dan, that our defence is a lot more aggressive. And we made them, they still try to play the same game. But when you can do that, they made some mistakes, which we were able to take advantage of.
Yeah, I totally agree, Nick. And for me, the purpose of having genuine line speed at the bare minimum does two things. It stops big men having a run up at you because you're cutting that space down, and number two, it tests their skill set. Right, they play like a high risk, high reward game. It's much easier to run 5-6 yards into the space that's in front of you, to pick the seam that you want to run into, to be able to free your hands to run at the weak shoulder, to then offload the ball, rather than you've got 2 or 3 blokes coming at you. You've now only got 2 or 3 yards or 4 yards to make that decision in. Plus they're marking, because the line speed's so high, you've already got someone, a defender on the inside, on the outside. That man's not as free anymore. They're not running at full pace and so on and so forth. It just tests the skill set even at the highest level. And for the love of me, I can't understand why it's not happening at the top of the game.
Just another observation I've made at this level is, and there's no shit Sherlock really here, is that over the 2 seasons you can see how players improve. So this season you've seen a difference in Luke Evans, Jack Pritchard, Dion Gwynn, the captain, Sean Davis, the scrum half, Kyle James, all very good examples of they really stepped up this season. But I think the players that really stand out, the ones that look good in year 1 and again in year 2, we've got a couple of real stars there in the future. And at the moment, the current crop, that's Steph Emmanuel and Tom Bowen.
I'd agree,
I think because I think that does take a little bit of doing. And we've had a couple in the past as well, like Morgan Morse and so on. But, and I think, and hopefully will be, you can see how, barring injury and hopefully some opportunities, they will make it into the first team pretty soon, the men's seniors team. But I thought an absolute standout again was the 18-year-old hooker, Thomas Howe, the Ysgol Glantaf hooker. And I'm sort of on the fence with Karen Leggett-Jones. He's an undoubted talent, but he tries a bit too hard at the moment. He plays like the 18-year-old schoolboy he is. He tries to do too much sometimes.
I think I'd agree with that. And the way I've made my peace with it is that if he's doing it now at the top level that he can play at, with 2 years to go at this level, is my understanding, I would expect to see if he's coached properly, for that decision-making ability and that game management ability to really come on over the next 2.5 years. So by the time he's out to the 20s and he's 21, 22 years of age, we should have some play, because there's no doubt about it. We can probably all agree that he's got all the ingredients to be for me, he's the next one off the fly-half conveyor belt, where I'm looking at him going, he could be Wales's next fly-half for a 10-year period. From sort of 22 to 32, he could be the man. He's that good.
I think a fair amount of that is going to come on how the Scarlets manage him over the 2 years when he's not playing for the 20s as well. I was watching a pod with Anna Caplis, who she's a former Irish international, and she was out doing the commentary for the Ireland under-20s game last week. And she was saying that one of the things that she's found with the Irish under-20s is that they basically have no achievements apart from schoolboy rugby, and then they go into an academy and they essentially don't really do anything apart from play under-20s rugby for Ireland for 2 years, and then it's just not really working. Whereas when you compare it to France, those lads are, they're making their top 14 debuts, they're making their Champions Cup debuts, etc., etc.
Oh, they do every week.
Yeah. So I think, she was really on something, and I think it really changed my opinion on actually somebody like Carwyn Leggett-Jones, Tom Bowen really are, I think they're probably some of the most important to keep in Wales and really, really focus on over the next 2 years to make sure that they're completely ready. And I'm just feeling very protective over them.
Yeah, go on, Nick.
No, I think that's a really good point. It's for Carwyn and so on. He's got another year at this level, but it's more. And Tom Bowen has broken into Cardiff squad, hasn't he? It's more the ones who reach 20 now. This is the last season at this level, and it's not. And as Hattie quite rightly says, it's not just a Welsh issue. And for us, a lot of those lads are playing in England anyway. It's what opportunities they now get over the next 2 seasons post 20s.
Yeah.
To develop into the players they could be.
Yeah, I agree. And it's much easier for a back to transition into what we would, in old money, what would be senior rugby, if you like. So you think, Tom Bowen being a prime example, he's transitioned already, hasn't he, into senior rugby? And I was even making the case that he'd be in the Six Nations squad. Because I think he's got that, and he's shown again, hasn't he, with the try that never was on Saturday night. He's got that X factor, so good on him. But it's much more difficult, I think, to transition those front 5 forwards and those back rowers, depending on the sort of game that you play, because I would cite Harry Beddle maybe as being a good transition, and Morgan Morse as being a good transition into senior rugby, whereby the type of game that they play it is sort of transferable into the senior game. So, and what I mean by that is Beddle's an out-and-out seven. It's turnovers and tackles, and he's making 30 per game, whether he's in an under-20 shirt or whether he's playing senior rugby for the Dragons.
Yeah.
Morse is ball carrying in space, running at weak shoulders, the ability to make gain line breaks, like the try we saw him score against Cardiff. That's what he was doing for the 20s. He's been able to transfer that into the senior game. How do you do that? Because Sam Scarf, for example, at the Dragons, has found that harder to do, being a front five forward. Dylan Kelleher-Griffiths has found it more difficult to do. He's struggled a couple of times. He's come on and prop because there's a difference in there. Your bread and butter being tackles and some ball carrying out in midfield or being a winger, compared to scrummaging against in the URC what could be a British Lion, tight head prop, or the Leinster, the type of front row that Leinster could bring over to Rodney Parade, for example, where Dylan Kelleher-Griffiths come on for the Dragons, I think, and if I recall rightly, and Leinster brought on Slimani, the French. He got 50 French caps, and was born and bred on scrummaging. That's how do you nurture? What's the stepping stone for those guys? And I suppose over the coming years it should be the SRC.
Yeah.
That should be the stepping stone. So I think you make a valid point there, Nick. And hopefully they get that pathway right. Even though those in power have already had 2 years and we've seen very little change. But yeah, let's watch this space.
I suppose now, just to perhaps close this one off, is can they build? Now they've had 2 narrow losses. Are they going to be, which I'm sure they're very disappointed about. But for me, the real big test is Scotland at home on Friday night against the team at home we should beat. Can we do it? And if they do, brilliant.
Yeah, good on
that's my concern.
Yeah, I think they got the ability to beat Scotland and beat Scotland well.
Yeah.
I think as well, even beyond the Scotland game, I think the Ireland game will be really interesting. This new Irish crop is not the same as some of the under-20 sides we've seen from Ireland recently, and I think our under-20 squad, I think, is better than we've had in recent years. As mentioned earlier, a lot more of our under-20s have got senior experience. So honestly, after the Scotland game, I feel like that's a good place to have an eye on.
Absolutely, totally agree. Shall we move on to Scotland, who are arriving down into Cardiff? Saturday kickoff, is it? What time?
Saturday kickoff, yeah, 20 to 6.
20 to 6 kickoff, so with the last game on Saturday.
That's late. What's that normal?
Second games have been 20 to 6, yeah.
Oh, I thought they've been 20 to 5.
Oh, you might be right. Sorry. I can't do the 24-hour clock yet.
Well, they're 20 to something.
20 to 5. It is 20 to 5. Got it written down.
I'll revise my 24-hour clock for next week.
So I was, as I said at the start, I was at the game on the weekend, and I have to be honest, I was disappointed with the turnout on the whole. The atmosphere in the ground was okay, and it was great if you're French. I reckon, and my guesstimating game isn't great, but I reckon there may have been 20,000 French fans in there.
The French travel very well for internationals, though.
But I would, and again, I would suggest there's never been that many French in there previously. I stand to be corrected on that, but I think the union have maybe gone, look, we're struggling to sell tickets at home. Do the French Rugby Union want more to flog to their rugby clubs over there? I don't know. However, my understanding is ticket sales are more for Scotland already.
But again, that would be travelling fans.
Travelling fans, and it's Saturday evening, etc., etc. So, first of all, are we going to change the team that we? Let's talk about changes then. What are we going to do in terms of in terms of changes. Let's talk about front row. We went with the front row we picked for the bench and to start. I still think those are our two best front rows. So, Carey, Dewi Lake and Francis to start. I thought the three of them showed up okay on the weekend, and I wouldn't particularly change any of those three. I don't know
No,
what you
I wouldn't
guys.
either.
No.
No, I feel like it maybe. I think Kari actually impressed me starting. Um, I think last time we picked him as a bench option, but I I'm happy to keep that the same.
And
Yeah,
I thought the reserves as well were
yeah,
fine.
Yeah,
I agree. And that's what I mean. The six front rowers that were chosen for the match day
Yeah, yeah.
squad.
But
I,
do the
I,
same again.
do the
Start the
same
same.
again. Yeah, I agree. Okay, are we all happy with that? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, let's move into the. Here we go. Here we go.
Do you know what? I feel like our complaints over the last couple of months. I think most people are on board with what we've said
Yeah.
now.
Right. Okay. So let's start with Dav Jenkins.
That's fine.
Are we keeping
Yeah.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think he's been a workhorse again, hasn't he?
yeah.
Um,
I just think he needs to be complemented by something
Bigger.
different to Adam
Uh,
Beard.
Absolutely.
Now
Well, I
let's
think we said before, didn't we, that going back a few weeks before Adam Beer's absolute nightmare on Sunday, we said the week I think when I was last on 2 weeks ago
yeah
that if Adam Beard plays, and we can argue about it all day, but if Dav Jenkins is your first choice second row, he needs a harder driving, harder hitting second row alongside him. And the person who deserves that first opportunity for me is Ben Carter.
yeah, and I think he was excellent when he came off the bench, actually.
yeah he was excellent, and I think I'd give Carter a go, and I would bring Rhys Davis onto the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be what I would do. And look, I want to get this out into the open now because particularly me, I've been a vocal critic of Adam Beard, right? And on the weekend, I did feel sorry for him. It kind of summed up everything that's been going wrong for him. When we turn the ball over, he kicks it, it sticks to Addis Ogby, and they kind of go over for they go over for a try which effectively killed the game off. We went in 26-7 rather than 19-7 or 18, whatever
Yeah.
it was, right? But before everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and it was pointed out by Jamie in the group earlier on, and rightly so. Adam Beard's an experienced international rugby player, 60 caps, British Lions tourist, got one test appearance as well. Now, I'll happily argue the toss over how many of those caps he should have got, but nevertheless, he's put on the red jersey 60 more times than 99% of the population will ever do. So, we do need to respect the name a little bit, but I think it's time we move him on. He goes back to his club, gets a little bit of confidence back, and we give Ben Carter a shot, I think.
Yeah, I think
totally agree.
we've got, if you're looking at second rows as having one lanky one and one sort of stockier one, Dav Jenkins is far up that pecking order to Adam Beard, and he needs a bit of grunt
Yeah,
to complement him.
I totally agree. Okay, so back row.
I didn't think the balance was right again. I thought
agree.
I think we should have gone with the WRRAP back row, which was Cracknell, McLeod, and Wainwright.
I don't mind losing 7, but a proper 7 at 7.
I totally agree.
Go on.
No, I totally agree. I was just going to say that the little clips that we showed earlier on was just proof that we didn't have anyone who was a specialist Jacqueline threat.
No.
We're too fixated on banging people in the collision, which is right. We need to win collisions, but we Alex Mann's not that jackal threat, and he's industrious. I like Alex Mann again. We're not bashing him, but I thought Cracknell was good, carried hard, whacked people in defence. Wainwright was as good as he's ever been. I just think it needs a Deves or a McLeod, and for me, I'd go with Deves.
Yeah. As I say, player A, player B.
Yeah.
I don't. There's an awful lot to choose to them, but I think it's more about philosophy that we have an out and out 7.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so we're happy with our sort of back row choice then. Do we change our 9?
I think what will probably come down to is how many changes we're making in the backs. If there's a fair few changes, which I think there could be, I feel like you need to keep him.
And does it also reflect who we pick at 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I got to be honest. I know I was a little bit critical of his kicking earlier on. I think but that's a close skill that he can work on over the next week, and he can. I got no doubt he recognised that contestable kick needs to be better.
Mm.
However, I think we'll have more ball to play with against Scotland.
Mm.
So therefore, I think he needs to play, because when we do get on the front foot and we are playing, the guy is
Oh, yeah.
lethal, and he's got a skill set in attack that that is unique, really. And there's an argument that he would have started the British Lion tests should he not have got injured. So yeah, I think I'd be keeping him in there.
Mm.
And I think we've got to reflect. I do understand why it's about playing to a game plan and playing the right players for that game plan. But we've got so few players who are truly international players, and
And
Thomas Williams is
he's one
those.
of them. I agree. I totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, moving on to the fly half slot then.
I think it's time for a change.
And I agree, and I think based for two reasons. I don't want to break Dan Edwards. I
Yeah.
don't want to break him on a long-term basis, because he's clearly got something. But I did think when they swapped him on 55 minutes, that was a sign that they wanted to do something different. And for me, Jared Evans delivered
Mhm.
when he came on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Took the ball to the line, played with variety. He was a bit more of a running threat to the line. And for me, clearly Costello's not been in the frame whatsoever. So I don't know why we would go to Costello having had Evans in the squad, who
Agreed.
has played. So therefore, I think I'd swap them around and go Evans with Edwards to the bench.
I agree.
I would see. I'd like to see Costello come off the bench just because I think he hasn't had a shot. Um, so I'd like to see him play instead
Okay.
of just holding a tackle bag. But I
Yeah.
do agree that Jared Evans should start.
Okay. I think we're all on board with that. Okay, so 12-13 combo. Um, Now, I had a close look at Eddie James on the weekend,
Hmm.
and the more I watched him, the more I'm adamant that boy needs to play in 12, in at 12. He struggled defensively, um, and I think what he's got the ability to do, he's a big, strong boy. He's got the ability to carry the ball in one hand. He reminded me a little bit of like Sonny Bill Williams. I think
Mm.
he's got that ability to offload the ball. He's dexterous enough to have people running off him, and those one-handed offloads out to contact. He was running with the ball like sort of grabbed in one hand. Big guy. So I think I'd go with Eddie into 12, and I'd bring Owen Watkin in, because Scotland are going to attack that 13
Mm.
channel the same way that France did, by playing to a forward or playing to a centre and pulling back to Finn Russell out the back, who crucified England in that channel. So I think I'd be going with Watkin
Mm.
at 13.
I agree with that. I think we said that before the
We've
England
said
game,
that
didn't
for the last.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
But
Uh,
does it not, though, make a again, I don't not I'm not even talking about individual players here. I'm talking about philosophy. We have
mm,
a philosophy where we have to have a ball playing 12. Now, I don't agree with that philosophy, but in our selection over the last 7, 8 games since Gatland has gone, that has been our selection. So it's a move away from, and I guess that's driven by Jockey Sherratt, wanting that type of player, and obviously Tandy's come in and agreed with him. So
yeah,
it is a bit of a fundamental change.
yeah,
It,
it is.
it
But
is.
yeah, it is. But I said last week, didn't I? And I'll stick to this again. I think it's easier to coach Eddie James, who's clearly got the skill set to be that ball player, than it is to coach Hawkins or Ben Thomas or whoever it is to be 6'4" and 110 kilos.
And not only that, like Eddie James has more experience at 10 than he does at 13.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
he only switched later on. So I think
Um.
a lot of people see him because he is so large. They see him and they go, "Oh yeah, he's a crash ball centre." Like that. But
Yeah.
actually, he has the skill set. He just needs to develop a little bit more.
And
So
on the Eddie James thing, we had a question from Martin Lewis, who's a self-confessed on via X, who's a self-confessed forward. So wanted to know, having been in the boiler house, man after my own heart, because I was a boiler house operative as well. Man of little brains, good at moving things. You know, is there, if we're going to continue with Joe Hawkins or Ben Thomas, that ball playing 12, I think Martin's getting it. Is there a way of bringing Eddie James into the game from an attacking perspective that would allow us to get our gain line first up?
I think there is, but I just feel like we're playing with madness. Just move Eddie James in. Just have him play 12.
Yeah, and
I think
and
You
think
can
it's
do it, yeah.
I think it's overcomplicating the situation when there's a really obvious answer.
I'm going
yeah,
to go back to what. Sorry, Jan.
no. I was going to say, I think there is, and I think Martin's maybe right. I don't think necessarily if we're going to. I think what they're trying to do, where they play with the ball playing 12 and having the big 13, is we want to play 1-3-3-1. They were shaped for 1-3-3-1. They want to play to the edge like France did. Now, in theory, if you played off 12 to 13, you could have a shortened line out, for example, go 9 to 8, one phase, or 8 straight out the back
Yeah,
to 12 to play 13 up. Then you're straight into that 13
yeah,
channel, and you've got someone big like that's how you would get him into the game. And then your one wide forward comes around, and you play out to that edge. You play out to that edge again. So there are ways of bringing him into the game. There's no doubt about that. But I'm in agreement with you, Hattie. I just start him in at 12.
and
And
also going back to what we said before, surely we've got to stop conceding 6, 7 tries a game
yeah,
to give ourselves a chance. We're only even with this ball playing 12, we're scoring 2, 3 if we're lucky tries on the whole. We had that one,
mm,
So let's just make ourselves harder to be in the arm wrestle for the last 20 minutes. So we're not conceding 4 tries before half time.
I totally agree. It's all well and good scoring 3, 4, 5. Even if we scored 5 tries a game, that's great. We're conceding 8.
Yeah,
It's pointless. So therefore, James in,
yeah,
walk into 13 to solidify that.
yeah.
So I suppose, Martin, in answer to your question, yeah, there is a way of we could easily bring him into the game to, first phase attack that 13 channel, but surely it's easier just to plug him in one and put a
Yeah.
genuine 13 at Watkin. Okay. What about the back three then?
I keep them the
Stay
same.
the
I
same.
thought they did well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I think they're complementing each other well. I think Louis Samek still has. I still think he needs to learn a bit.
Oh yeah,
But he's not going to do that without playing there. So
and he's we can't get past the fact he's beating defenders in international rugby,
Yeah.
and he's certainly caught out of position a lot. But you've got to look at the advantages over disadvantages. And again, he's one of the few players who's a genuine international player.
Yeah. And I do think maybe with Jared Evans coming in at 10 and we do have a bit more go forward ball, we may be able to get him, see him in that slot that Ramos was, out the back of
Absolutely.
that pod of forwards.
Yeah,
Where he's and now you imagine Reece Samet in that French team on the weekend.
yeah.
He'd have
Where
scored 5.
Jalibert was coming in. Jalibert
Where,
quick, but he
yeah,
hasn't got. He can't live with his Amit.
no. So whoever they're playing out the back of that wider pod after narrowing the D up, if that's Reece Samet coming in,
Yeah,
he's under the
he's
post
going in
every
under the
time.
post.
Okay. Well, I think we've sort of nailed down the starting 15. We're gonna go with. Are we going with a 5-3 split or a 6-2 split?
I think 5-3.
I
I think 6-2 is too risky, but with what
yeah.
we've got.
Okay, so we're gonna keep the same front rowers. Then we're gonna go with.
Is Freddie Thomas fit? I'm happy with Reece Davis, but is he fit?
I think I'd go. Personally, I'd go with Reece Davis. I think you need
Yeah.
that boiler house ability
Mm.
just to keep it nasty in this. Who's your extra back rower?
Well,
Last week we said Botham.
I stick with Plumtree because he showed on Sunday that if he can be sensible, he's got a good ball. He's got a good skill set, and he offers another lineout option.
Sorry, Nick. I think I can see pigs flying just in the distance.
No, I've never criticised his skill set.
No. Yeah, but my only concern with Plumtree is that it's a big if for me. So personally, he'd be out for me based on the fact that if it's a tight game, we're hoping to be in it, I'd be too concerned that he could be the one with sort of 5 minutes to go, yellow card, he's off for the last 5 minutes, and, there's a penalty in front of the sticks, and they pop it over to either take the game away from us, or so that's why I would stick with both of them really.
I think it goes back to I've got no problem with both of them. Either he's physical, he can play across the back row.
Yeah.
If Steve starts, there's not a shout out from McLeod for his experience. Come on, he can do a similar job to both of them.
Yeah, I suppose the only problem is then who steps up into the second row if we have an injury as well.
Yeah.
We got Rhys Davis on the bench, haven't we?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, McLeod or both of them for me. Go on, Hattie, take your pick.
I think it depends on who we start and who.
I can see decision making is a strength of yours.
Oh, I'm terrible at making decisions.
So come on, but spit it out.
Personally,
why do we do both of them on the bench and it's either or McLeod or Deves to start?
Yeah, I feel like having Deves on the bench is pointless. Having McLeod on the bench makes no sense.
Yeah. No, I think Nick's probably right. You start with either Deves or McLeod. That's what they're going to go with, and both of them are giving more impact because he covers across the back row as well.
Yeah,
so Nick's right. So both of them would be the bench choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorted. In terms of our 9 cover, my issue with the 9 cover at the minute is, in reality, like Hardy's has been on the bench just as effectively injury cover.
Cover.
Yeah. So, do we stick with him? Because
he's the most experienced 9, isn't he? After Thomas, isn't he? I'm not. I suppose. Is he going to? I suppose Morgan Williams offers a different type of 9. If you want to speed the game up. But Hardy's got the experience. At the end of the day, Ruben Williams got 1 cap. I think it'll be Hardy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just thinking if the box kick in it isn't going according to plan, which one do they bring on? But yeah, they stick with Hardy. I think is probably going to be the way forward, because the reality is if we get more ball like we think we go into, Thomas isn't coming off really until late on anyway. So okay. And what about your fly half cover then?
I'd go Costello off the bench because I think he deserves a chance.
What do you think, Nick? Do we give Edwards a rest?
He's a young man, isn't he? It's a pressure position.
It's tough. It's real tough.
It's tough. I've got no strong views either way. I'm not going to lose sleep if it's Costello, and maybe he deserves a chance to come on. It is easier, whoever the player is, coming on for the last 15, 20 minutes, especially when you're coming on and you lose by 40 points. In some ways, that's easier, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, the game's over. Whereas, like Jared came on against Japan and won the game for us. That's a much harder ask.
Yeah, so I suppose then you're looking at if we think Jared deserves a shot at starting, then if it is a tight game, which one of them is coming on and seeing it home for us?
Which Costello had that role under Bigger.
Yeah, maybe. And my only thing is with Dan Edwards, I think his confidence looks like it's on the edge.
Yeah.
Now, and what I wouldn't want to do is break him, and I think it would be a case of this is where Tandy's head coach man management comes in. Do you go, look, Dan, you're not being dropped. We're happy with the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
We just think that you need a rest. Take you out to the
young man.
Take you out of the boiling pot. And give you a rest. We have a couple of weeks off and see what we look like in training before we make any decisions ahead of the Island game. And then, based on that theory, you go with Costello.
Yeah.
I also think that if you're talking about him and mental health, etc., is that if it was a tight game and he came on and he wasn't able to slot a penalty or he lost us the game, I think that would destroy him even more than getting dropped.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
You're right. So
Gorgeous
lastly,
fella.
then back three cover,
Slash
McGrady.
centre cutter. Yeah, I think Grady, because he
Grady.
can come on, he can cover in the centre, he can cover on the wing,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
Grady.
Okay, so we're locked in. So Hattie will likely do a magic over the next 24 hours or however long it is, and you see it pop up on our socials accounts. So give it a like, comment underneath, disagree with us, slag us off, retweet, share, whatever it is you want to do with it, or just completely ignore it. It's up to you. That's what
Like the Wales coaches do.
like the way. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose other than that, it's just prediction time before we kind of knock it on the head. So, Hattie, let's start with you. Where are we going on where are you going with on Saturday?
I mean, if it's the team we've chosen, I think it could be relatively close, just on the fact that Scotland have an incredible habit of beating England and then dropping the following game. I think it could be closer. Not necessarily a win, but I think it could be closer. If they pick the team that they picked to play France to play Scotland, no chance in hell. I think it wrong combinations, wrong personnel, just wrong.
So, are you going to win or are we going to lose?
We're going to lose.
Okay. Scotland by how many?
If it's our team, I'm going to preface this. If it's the WRRAP team that's selected or close thereabouts, 9, 10.
Okay, you're first. Nick, what about you?
Scotland by 15.
Okay, well, I'll be the optimistic one out of the three of us then. And I think if Wales rectify their contestable kicking game, and so we win more ball back, and we are more aggressive in defence, and we're not as narrow, then we can win the fixture. And I think if we get those two things right, Wales will win by 5.
Yeah, I think if there was any
you're
chance
first.
for a win, it would be narrow.
Yeah. Alternatively, we could be sat here next week going through exactly the same stuff that went wrong this week as same thing that went wrong, against England, really. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting
In which case,
a different result. So
Tandy is bonkers.
yeah, well, aren't we all? Aren't we all? So, is there anything else for anyone else? No,
No.
we're all done and dusted then.
We're all done and dusted.
And without Harley here, then I suppose it just leaves me to say make sure you get on to beer52/WRRAP and get your free beers. Good luck to the Welsh boys on the weekend. And yeah, make sure you follow us on Twitter, like and share on Facebook, comment underneath and give us a like on YouTube and Spotify. That goes a long way for us. It's always nice to see the comments underneath. If you've got any questions for us, fire it in via our social media channels over the next week and we'll pick them up for you. And other than that, thanks to Hattie, thanks to Nick, thanks to Harley, who's part-time tonight, so we'll have to, we'll have to dock his appearance.
He's having a salary reduction.
Yeah. We'll dock his appearance fee. And other than that, no star.
Our
Not
star.